Hi, it's Delia. Thanks for jumping on. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about authenticity and the whole concept of like being your authentic self and becoming more you, um, and how there's a lot of support for being your authentic self, and it's okay to be different from everybody else. So, all of that's groovy, all that's real. But there's a lot of unintended consequences that come with your wanting to be more authentic. One of the things that, uh, as you grow into your authenticity, one of the things that you come up against is the need to fit in. It's a primal need, it's a primal urge that, like pretty much all the other needs and desires, has been kind of overwritten, let's say. There's a lot of programming and a lot of confused and inaccurate information. So the theory is that if you don't fit in, and this is subconscious, this is not in your brain, these are not the words in your brain. But if you don't fit in, if you don't try to fit in. So the first premise is that if you're just you, you can't fit in. And on a socialization level, that's kind of pretty true. Um, and um, as you grow, especially when you're really a kid, little kid, right? You think, well, I have to. I mean, first of all, you have to adapt to the tribe that you're in, which is whoever you're living with, and um, most families are on a spectrum of dysfunction or function, however you want to look at it, and some are seriously messed up. So, as a little kid who is supposed to be looking to the mom, this is babyhood, right? For connection and reflection. The mom reflects the baby back to the baby. Um, if that's distorted, which how can it not be? Because moms weren't mommed properly either, then the baby makes conclusions. It deduces things. It deduces, okay, well, if I am really quiet, then they won't hit me. Or if I really smile a whole lot and giggle a whole lot, then they like me better. So the starting at the beginning, the consciousness of the child figures out the room before anything, before language, because energy is our first language. Energy and pictures for those of us who are clairvoyant. So as a little kid, you can feel the disapproval, you can see um, how they react and how they respond, what kind of gets you your needs met and what doesn't get you your needs met. So you'll accommodate, a baby will come up and a child will come up with the ways to behave that is a conversation with the mom and the other adults, or you know or the dads, right, and the siblings. So um, learning to be yourself doesn't really come into it unless you have an extraordinary and unusual kind of a parentage and home life, in which case that's great. But for those of us who did not have that, no matter how well-meaning our parents may have been, what we think of as our personality is basically a collection of coping patterns. And strategies to get our needs met, which we're supposed to have. We're supposed to have our needs met. We're supposed to know how to get our needs met. But society is so corkscrewy that the things that we learn were pretty corkscrewy. And then you get into adulthood and you discover that, well, after about 20 or 30 years, you figure out that all your relationships are the same as your sibling relationships or your family relationships when you were a kid, because you're acting out those beliefs, conclusions, assumptions, decisions, and they're getting you mixed results. And probably as you grow older, they're getting you worse and worse results. And then by the time you're kind of over all of that because it's not working for you, you come up against, oh my God, I have no idea who I am, because you've been a collection of brilliant strategies, but they were brilliant in the moment. They're not brilliant for the duration of your life. And often, society makes us wrong for a lot of things. So often we deduce that we have character defects, or we have pathologies that need to be fixed, right? Because the culture is all about what's wrong and how to fix it. That's the whole thing about problem solving. That's the problem of reducing everything to problem solving, is that it cuts out tremendous wisdom and other perspectives and possibilities. So to be in middle age, whatever that might be, whatever it hits you, it can be, in your 20s even, that you realize that you don't know who you are. And there's a certain amount of shame in our culture for that. Like, you should. And it's just as insane as by 8th grade, you should know what you want to do for the rest of your life. Please. Maybe they don't do that anymore, but back in the olden days, they expected you, they told you, they had the expectation that by the 8th grade, you should know what you want to be when you grow up. And another crazy premise is that you're a utility. What is your function going to be? What is your purpose going to be? Well, think about that. When you're a human being, it's in the name right there. It has to do with being. And being doesn't mean sitting around and watching TV, or sitting around and doing nothing, or sitting around and thinking. It has to do with a state of being, which has to do with being alive and in motion and in relationship. And it's a very dynamic, being is a very dynamic thing. So here you are, whatever age you are, and you realize that you don't know who you are. And you assume, because this is cultural assumption, that everybody else knows who they are. Everybody else has the world wired. Everybody else knows, right? And somehow you didn't get the handbook, which reinforces the lie that you're not smart enough, good enough, enough, right? So it's kind of a spiraling, self-fulfilling downward prophecy. And the truth is that when you hit that place where you don't know who you are, that spot is the point of beginning. It's like, oh my God, I can finally stop pretending. Now, if you have pretended as for your safety, for your well-being, socially, right, which most of us did, then to be at that doorstep where you're leaving kind of the house of predictions and conclusions and assumptions of who you are, who they are, what life is, what is and isn't possible. And you're standing on this threshold, and there's this spaciousness out in front of you, farther than the eye can see. And it might be very bright so that it looks just white. You're blinding. You can't see anything. So it's an act of courage to say, I don't know who I am, and this is an adventure. Because what you're really leaving behind is all the definitions, conclusions, decision, all the socialization, all of the coping strategies for a dysfunctional family, and everything that people with their own biases say that you are, whether that was true for you or not. So to leave all of that, I mean, let's face it, there's usually a certain amount of discomfort. Kind of nobody wakes up and says, oh, yay, I don't know who I am. That's a good thing. And it really is. Because as you have noticed, we're in a period of civilization, of the evolution of humanity, where constructs are falling apart. And while there's a lot of conversation about what's right and wrong about that and what to do about that, things that do need to be addressed, there is a higher perspective. And from the higher perspective, things, generally speaking, things fall apart so they can come together in a better organization, in a better sequence, in a better arrangement, something that fits you better, something that suits you better. You know, it's catastrophic when a long-term marriage ends, especially when there was any kind of deceit involved. And the other person feels like, oh my God, my whole life was a lie. They made a fool out of me. But then after all of that kind of flushes through, what will be discovered on the other side is that, oh my God, thank God I'm not living a lie anymore. I'm not being gaslit. I get to decide what I want to do and when I want to do it and who I really am. So there's the growth period of adjustment, which is pretty emotional, but it's a period of kind of breaking up with a lot of lies. And that means that there's a lot of truth that's ready to support you and that you can use to make a comfortable, as in it fits you, kind of a life, a kind of a understanding of who you are, with less hard lines, with less definitions that you've heard from other people, with it's a little more semi-permeable, that allows for change and that allows to be in the conversation with your emotions instead of having the wrong labels on them all the time, like how we're raised. There's a lot of freedom and a lot of spaciousness, and invariably a lot of connecting with who you really are, which is an infinite being with this amazing body on this phenomenal planet at this amazing time. So many possibilities. So in that process, you're becoming more authentically you. You're defining yourself a little less. You're using other people's definitions a lot less. And you discover that the more you are you, the faster you're not going to get along with people that don't work for you, that don't work well with you, that don't like you, that want to change you, that want to judge you. And in reacting with them, you discover where you have been judging you as well. And then you get to be free of that, which is really great. And then you discover that you being you is the most comfortable place on the planet. You're connected to your higher self that knows all the things that your body personality may never know. But your body personality is okay with that because it knows that you, the spirit, have your back. And all your different body personality parts, all the different ages, everybody can relax and get along because you're living in the truth of you, however fluid that may be. So, yes, it is scary to start to individuate from your friends and to start to become more your own authentic self, especially when that's amorphous to you. And the trade off is that you get to be you and you get to have your back more. And then what happens is that other people may fall away, other relationships may end. And there's a lot of that going on the planet right now. But when you have you, your cup is full, it's overflowing. And what happens is you attract other people who aspire to having themselves and to having their own back. And then your friendships are based on something other than mutual survival or mutual need or mutual hiding. And it just feels so great. It's just really is so great to really have your back. You can't give what you don't have. So if you don't really love yourself, if you don't really have compassion for yourself and spaciousness and love yourself no matter what, you can't give those things and you can't receive them. But when you do have all of that, your cup runneth over. And you know who to take up with and who to walk past, which is a tremendous time saver and gut saver and everything. So, yes, becoming true to yourself, becoming your authentic self is a journey and it has rites of passages included in it, and they can be daunting. And the more you are focused or dedicated to being on your side and to being who you came here to be, knowing that that is a gift, or telling yourself it is a gift until you do know it. It's a wonderful thing, and it's a tremendous gift, not only to you, but to everyone. People you'll never meet benefit from your seeking your sovereignty and learning to live from that. So, hope this helped. See you later.